Elevator experiences are entering a new era with innovative digital capabilities and designs that integrate form and function. Vibrant colors and lighting solutions make rides more pleasant. Intuitive, user-friendly interfaces facilitate smooth people flow, while attractive, smart materials help keep the elevator clean, less susceptible to wear and tear, and aligned with growing health and hygiene needs. Most impressive, however, is the ability to take a leap forward with connectivity that opens a world of opportunities, enabling intelligent solutions that make life more convenient, inspiring, and delightful. By making the core of your building updatable, you're prepared to fulfill future needs and benefits beyond your imagination. Our new line of connected elevators redefines the user experience while increasing the value of your building. Enter the new era of elevators. KONE DX Class Elevators, connecting more than floors.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for Lamudi's The Outlook Roundtable Discussion, Building Green Homes, Sustainability and Technology in Real Estate. I'll be your moderator for today's conversation, Michelle Martin from the Lamudi Academy. The Lamudi Online Roundtable series brings together some of the biggest thought leaders in the real estate industry to weigh in on topics that mark change and signal growth for the sector. Each Outlook Roundtable discussion focuses on key issues in the real estate industry. In our previous online roundtable discussion, panelists dove into real estate investing, which has gotten the attention of very young tech-savvy Gen Z, as well as Gen Xers and Boomers with more financial capacity. Our panelists then answered the question, what's next when it comes to real estate investing? For this online roundtable discussion, we will be talking about one of the pressing matters that has become the ultra priority in the new normal, which is sustainability and building green. The environment is very much on the agenda of many of today's real estate players as they look to build future-proof homes. So today, in partnership with KONE, we will explore how the Philippine real estate industry is gearing for healthier change in creating tomorrow's homes. Join us as we talk about where green real estate is headed and what property developments of the future would look like. So with us today, we are joined by Markus Nisula, Managing Director for KONE, Roy Golez, Director of Research and Consultancy, Leechiu Property Consultants, and Jess Kabigting, VP Operations and SPU Head of Visayas, Cebu Landmasters. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you here. Right, very exciting topic. So let's dive right in. And I want to start with the biggest question, which is how exactly do we define sustainability? And I'd like to start with you, Markus. What are your thoughts around that? So what does sustainability building mean? And what if we put it in layman's terms, what exactly is that?
Excellent question. So there's actually a lot of sustainability can be taken also as a buzzword, which it is not, because maybe the first thing we usually think about when saying solutions, we think about electricity, but actually, at least in my opinion, sustainability is much more. Basically, one way to put it is that we want to be sustainable because we want to leave this earth, place where we live, in a better shape for the next generations. So it's us living and doing business in a sustainable manner, so that we have a chance to do that for the centuries and centuries to come. So less waste and more sustainable solutions.
Excellent definition there, Markus. And I see, Jess, that you're nodding there. So I want to pick up that question with you because Markus pointed out the impact that we create, not just in the present time, but for future generations, right? So Jess, if I ask you what the environmental impact is and what, in terms of that impact, what is real estate really responsible for? How would you answer that?
Okay. Thanks for the question, Michelle. So basically taking off from what Markus mentioned, when you look at sustainability, what we are actually talking about is handing something to the future. Basically, if we look at it in simple terms, we are just caretakers, okay, of the environment, and we have to hand it over to the people who will come afterwards. So basically, as a developer from my side, okay, when we look at sustainability, we are looking at basically several impacts of real estate, which we have to really be concerned for every project. First one, top of mind is always the impact of to the environment. Okay? Second is you have to look at the how the project will impact, okay, the flora, fauna, or perhaps the biodiversity which is found in a certain area. Perhaps if a developer places a large development or a township in a certain area, okay, that development might change the landscape there. You might be placing uh, types of plants which would intrude, okay, the development. Okay, next to that, you would also look at the quality of the air or the water, which might be impacted or contaminated by the project. And lastly, okay, you have to look at the impact of the project to the quality of the people staying there. At the end of the day, we have to realize that the project always has a social impact. And longevity and sustainability means that a developer must look at the community itself, which it is serving, and has to ensure that the project must contribute to the well-being.
Very good points there. And over to Marcus again. So I'd like to pick your brain a little bit more. So Jess has mentioned some of the decisions that developers now are consciously making, right? So what other decision-making impact have you seen that caused by sustainability that developers, investors, and end users are putting into consideration today?
Excellent question. Thanks for that. Maybe two aspects. First of all, if we think about customers, so like you mentioned in the beginning, we have new generations of customers whose values are more geared towards sustainability. The millennials as well as the Generation Z, they want to invest in sustainable solutions. So they don't, in a way, think only about money, but they think other values as well. So of course, I think that is something that all the developers, they must think nowadays, because if they don't think about sustainability, if the sustainability is not on their agenda, they will actually deliberately leave some of the potential investors out from their future developments. And another thing is that I think even non-millennials, the older investors, they are thinking about the investments in longer term. So maybe those times when you were thinking that, okay, I buy the apartment today, I will cash in like after a year, maybe those times are over. And buildings, of course, they last for 20, 30, maybe even 50 years. So if we want to make sustainable investments, so of course, the asset what we are investing in, that needs to be sustainable. So otherwise it's going to be a bad investment. So there's a lot to think, and I think most of the real estate developers, they are taking all of this into account already.
Definitely a lot to think about there. Thank you, Marcus. Now, to Roy this time. So would you say that green buildings are becoming the norm in the Philippine property market? I myself, have seen developments in the bigger cities with certificates plastered on their tarpaulin saying that they're green. But what exactly, in your view, is the percentage of new developments that are actually green certified?
Thank you for that question, Mitch. I think today it's already the barest minimum to be a green building. The buyers today, especially the young buyers, the Philippines is a very young society. The average age is 23, 24 years old. So if you can look forward to the next 5, 10 years, almost all of our buyers coming in the next few years will be young. They're very much educated, they're well connected, they go to YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, They are attuned to the modern ways of building, to technology. Um, it's, I think, basic already for developers to look at sustainability as one of the key selling points. Now, what is sustainability for me? It was asked earlier. I think it's creating value at the least resources, no, for the best quality of life of the buyer. So what does it mean to the buyer? It may be more expensive today upfront, but in the long term, let's say 5, 10 years, as they continue on living in their condo or their residence, sustainability technologies will have brought costs down compared to an old building that uses, the previous technologies, and which will require, let's say, some refitment or some, renovation, just to be aligned to today's sustainability trend. So definitely, all big developers are looking at that, and definitely they are exploring technologies to push forward.
A really interesting thought there. So I'm sure that real estate investors, developers, and buyers are right now, as they're listening to us, wondering, are there actual economic payoffs for real estate for going green, right? So if we were to meet with these investors, developers today, how would you convince them?
The usual answer to that will be, renewables. You have solar, you have rain capture, but also there's efficiency in operations, better technology in terms of elevators, which consume less electricity, lights, motion sensors, which detect, a usage of a certain space. And if there's nobody there, then all the lights and water and the utilities are off. So there are a lot of smart solutions in buildings that actually are being implemented today in the Philippines. And I'm happy to see that they are being taken seriously now.
Right. Jess, your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Mitch, I really totally agree with Roy. Okay, because as a developer, sustainability or going green is in itself, it's a very good business proposition, because all investors right now, whether they are in real estate or they are independent investors, they are looking at long term. Sometimes when you look at it, the notion that you have to spend more to do a green building isn't actually true, because the additional upfront costs which you might spend for going green are offset by the savings in operating expenses or the added value to the building. In fact, going green, as we can see in many developers right now, is one of their marketing promotions, which drives the value of a building. And in long term, okay, when you look at the total value of the development, going green, going sustainable, actually makes the development more attractive. Whether you are a millennial, Gen X, Gen Y, or Gen Z, or you're simply a pragmatic investor, the efficiencies gained, okay, by going greener, sustainable, offsets, okay, any possible upfront cost which a developer might have to shell out at the onset.
Right. And I think, for Roy and Jess, that definitely answers the question of the competitive advantage that green buildings have over other property markets, right?
Yeah.
Now, over to Marcus. Roy has mentioned the innovations that we've introduced with elevator solutions. And I've learned that the elevator solutions that you offer have sustainability-focused materials. So what exactly are these features, and how do they benefit both the real estate players as well as the end users?
Actually, coming back what Jess was saying about these developers, they may need to invest a little bit more in the beginning to build a sustainable building, but it will definitely pay off over the long period of time. And what I used to call it, it's like a life cycle mindset. So you don't think about only, let's say, the investment if you are an apartment owner or potential buyer. You only not think about how much the apartment will what will be the investment, but you also think about what will be the maintenance cost over the whole life cycle of the apartment. And then you look at the let's say, total cost of ownership. And the same applies to elevators. So when we design an elevator, we design it to last for 20, 25 years. So obviously, then you need to maintain it. Of course, everything what moves, it wears. But nevertheless, these materials that we are using in our elevators, they are made to last. So both the developers as well as the building owners or apartment owners, they know that when there is a KONE elevator, and if it's a well-maintained, and it is well-maintained, so then it is a safe choice. That's maybe the best way to put it.
Yeah, so and I think my takeaway there is it's definitely cost versus benefit, right? So invest a little bit now, you get the long-term returns. With that in mind, Markus, so a follow-up question for you is, how would you now equate, or how can sustainability be synonymous to efficiency? So we've been talking about cost, right? How about efficiency this time?
Efficiency, sustainability. You can say that it's. I think somebody said it already earlier. It's. It can be like a synonymous in that sense that it's the most efficient way to use the resources. Let it be electricity, let it be raw materials, steel, aluminium. I mean, if you build, if you have maybe cars are a good example. We all know that there are more expensive cars and less expensive cars. And usually the more expensive cars, they last longer. And there is like one of the reasons being that they better materials are used to manufacture these more expensive cars. So in that sense, for me, sustainability equals efficiency, because that is the most efficient usage of raw materials. And as we all know, now, let it be steel, let it be aluminium, all the raw materials, there's a huge consumption of those, has been during the last 10, 20 years, when, for example, China has rapidly as it has. So we must start to consume less, which means that we need to have more, let's say, high quality, longer lasting products.
Right. And over to Jess this time. So I understand that CLI has green buildings as well in its portfolio, right? And with some under construction. So what for you are the biggest benefits to end users staying in these kinds of developments aside from lower utility bills?
Thanks, Mitch. Well, to answer that, I would have to go back a bit to what Markus was mentioning a while ago, wherein when we come up with a building, the idea is that we would want it to be both efficient and sustainable. Okay. Markus had phrased it correctly, meaning as a developer, my perspective has always been efficiency is the starting point to sustainability. Okay. So as a developer, what we do is that we try to embed the principles of sustainability in all phases of the project, from planning to construction to operation. So construction examples are what Markus had mentioned. We basically try to get the best materials. We try to go local when necessary. In planning, we try to provide more open spaces. We try to go for the BRDE certification as early as planning would allow, so that we can embed the green principles in the building which we are delivering to our customers. Then upon turnover, what you do is that you ensure that your property management firm would also practice those green principles. Meaning, you should have an MRF in the development. There is a defined way of basically controlling the waste, reusing what can be reused, and making others renewable. At the same time, you also make sure that the HVAC system, the air conditioning systems are properly maintained. Of course, to be fair, I don't have much problems with KONE. I love the elevators of Markus, and all of my elevators in CLI, they're all KONE. I don't go for any other brand. So if you are someone staying or using a CLI development, you can be sure that the mindset of going green or sustainable is something which CLI has embedded in its development model as a framework, because we know it makes good business sense. As I said a while ago, many people nowadays look at those sustainability initiatives. They see it as a reflection that the developer or the company you're talking to is a good company. It's not only after the bottom line, but it also makes sure that the non-financial measures or the non-financial drivers of a good project are also well taken care of.
Really good eco-friendly practices there. Thank you for sharing them, Jess. And for Roy, so let's take a look at other countries for a bit this time, right? So what would you say are good examples of practices from other countries that we can apply right here in the Philippines?
Well, we have to look at the countries which have similar climate to the Philippines, and I can only think about Singapore, which has actually, I think, led Southeast Asia in terms of using green and sustainable technologies. If you're familiar with Singapore, they call themselves the Garden City. So no, it's kind of cliche to think about sustainability as just green, but that's one aspect of Singapore that I like, which is related to sustainability. And also one thing that they did, although it's not related to buildings, was the capture of fresh water in their marina project. So what was formerly a large part of the sea, they were able to build a containment facility, and they converted that sea area into fresh water. Now that's also a part of their sustainability efforts for the whole community. That's a difficult question, though.
Yeah, and I think just going back to what Marcus mentioned at the very start of our conversation is that we are at a point where we're transforming sustainability from a buzzword to a way of life, right? And I think that's a good segue to my question for Marcus, which is if we're talking to operators of existing buildings today, what would you advise to these operators as the first steps to take towards retrofitting eco-friendly features, and what should be their priorities as they move into that structure?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, actually, Mitch. And the reason being that, of course, we cannot neglect the existing buildings because there's so many of those. But the answer is quite simple. I would say that you need to automate. I would even say that as much as possible, because for you to turn the building more sustainable, you need data to begin with. So let it be lighting, let it be air conditioning, let it be anything in the building which let's say consumes some kind of a resource. First of all, you need to have data, and for you to have the data, you need to automate. So like these connected elevators, that's like one part of the solution, because when the elevators are connected or when the HVAC is connected, then you can start gathering the data, and only then you can make let's say decisions on what to change in the building. So automate, connect basically everything what you can, start gathering the data, and then basically optimize everything what you can to make the building more sustainable.
Right, so data first, data-driven decisions, and then move forward, right? Really interesting thoughts here from Marcus, Roy, and Jess. Now, I'd like to go now to talking about the current trend in using smart technologies in buildings. So introducing devices that can be remotely controlled via phone or computer. So let's start with Roy. So what would you say are the best ways real estate players can adopt smart solutions in their buildings?
So taking off from what Marcus said about data, actually that's where it all. I agree with Marcus. That's where it all starts. It's under the concept of responsible usage of resources, energy, water, time, waste, everything. So because you need that baseline data for you to be able to determine if any new technology you use actually makes sense. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, as we move into online connected switches, let's say for electricity, water, for appliances, as we go into the Internet of Things, the usage of energy, the usage of water, the usage of resources becomes more refined, clearer, cleaner, and there's actually a lot of peso or money savings from the use of these technologies. As an example, I was amazed about the technology being used right now in BGC, where they actually time the turning off and the turning on of the street lamps day in and day out, and they're able to produce millions of pesos of savings just by automating the whole grid of BGC. Now apply that to a certain building in the common spaces, the parking, then you can also surely translate a lot of that into peso savings.
All right. Jess, any thoughts you want to add to that?
Can I actually add?
Yes, please.
Gathering the data is the starting point. And then if we add an automation, like let's say a simple automation might be the second step. But then when we go even beyond that, then we have the artificial intelligence and when we have systems that actually learn. So as an example, if you have especially now, when the buildings, the usage of the buildings and the utilization of the buildings is something totally different than it used to be in the normal times. So when the systems learn that, I don't know, for example, that now in the new normal, there's much less people on Fridays in the building, so they don't have to cool the building as much as you used to need to cool when it was normal. So I mean, technology, the opportunities are just limitless, but you have to start. You have to, first of all, you need to connect these let's say appliances and equipment you have in the building, and you need the data. Without that, you can't do basically anything.
Right. And definitely exciting to have a peek at the future today with the talk of AI and smart solutions. And going back to present time, though, for Jess, so amid the pandemic, rather, did you see an increased demand for tech features such as high-speed Wi-Fi? And how would you describe CLI incorporating this technology features in its developments, given that it's now among the new normal preferences, just like what Markus said, for property seekers?
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. That was a very good question. I think the term that we can best describe what all of us underwent during these past 2 years is called technology transformation. I mean, during these past 2 years, the great technology divide between those who are avid technology users from those who are new to it had to be greatly shortened. Admittedly, before the pandemic came in, our technology in CLI was really, you might say, something which is just the ordinary technology piece. Okay? So wherein we had a combination of Internet of Things, the traditional technology, the internet, and we had our support systems. But when COVID came in, the entire business had to shift. In a few months, we had to come up with technology transformation pieces, which would allow us to still serve our customers. For one, we had to leverage heavily on the internet now, meaning from the point of view of the development teams of CLI, we are using what is before us right now, the Zoom, the Google Meet, the common technology platforms. More than face-to-face, okay, the virtual meetings had to become the new norm. And then for our sales activities, we had to come up with digital platforms, which would allow us to connect to our brokers and to our customers as well. This meant that for CLI, we had to create our own online sales reservation in the internet, come up with a customized application fit for us. And then we also took Salesforce in order to help us take better care of our customers from the time they sold the unit until the time the unit can be turned over. Then we had to accelerate our SAP as well. So moving forward, the plan really is that we have to move further to the next step. And that means, hopefully in a few years, the entire technology platform of CLI is going to the cloud. So to make the long answer short, our value proposition was greatly changed, accelerated by COVID. The game plan totally changed. And for CLI to strengthen its value proposition to its customers, we had to come up with new technology offerings. The product is still the same. It's a house and lot, it's a residential condo, it's an office. But the way we had to connect to our customers had to accept the fact that face-to-face would be difficult. So we have to come up with creative alternatives. For example, turnover of units can be done virtually now if you can do face-to-face. The inspection of your unit done by engineering can be checked virtually by unit owner. If you go to our website, you can also check the status of the project with real-time project pictures, which are given on every week. And then for our sales and brokers, we had given them the opportunity of logging to a dedicated application, which would help them manage the sales pipeline. All of this were not present before, but we had to offer it in a year's time because the business environment has changed, but the preferences and the demands of customers are still the same. So we had to adapt.
Right, great story of transformation there. You're right, is that at the heart of it, the need and the drive is the same, but the way that service is delivered has definitely transformed. And speaking of value proposition, Markus, I know that KONE takes great pride in introducing the world's first connected elevator. How can these digital powered solutions, just like what KONE offers, contribute to specifically reducing environmental impact?
Thanks for the question. Yes, we are humbly proud that we were the ones who introduced the first ever connected elevators to the customers. So vast topic that I would even say that it's beyond our imagination even what these elevators can offer in the future. But since as long as the elevators are connected, you can do whatever with them. So and what we have done, maybe it's worth mentioning that we have opened up the this connection also to third-party service providers. So it's like you could say that it's the app store of elevators. So any company who has a service to offer that can be connected or integrated with the elevators, we are open for that. So service robots is a good example. So let's say that how to make the buildings more sustainable. I dare to say that there, for example, the service robots has much to offer. And actually, just today, I was having a conversation with one colleague. One of the problems of service robots has been that they have been very expensive. Now the volumes are increasing, the prices are coming down. So there's so many things that robots can actually do much more efficiently than people can do. So, and as we remember, sustainability equals efficiency. So I mean, imagination is the limit.
And over to Roy. So we're talking about the future now. If you were to make a prediction today, how soon would you say will the use of cutting edge technologies in buildings become mainstream? So no longer just a part of the imagination, but actually that we're seeing as part of our daily life.
Thank you, Mitch. In fact, it's already started. There are now buildings in Makati with where you have an iPad-like device when you enter your door, and everything can be switched on or off with that device. So it's here, it's today. It's already happening. And I'm pretty sure almost all of the buildings being built right now have some form of new technology built into their buildings. And I think it's also because there's already the general belief or principle that we're looking at where sustainability means better quality of life for the buyer or the user. Now, that translates to better reputation for the developer too, and better pricing. Because as the user gets, more convenience, is happier where he is, then the developer who delivered that unit to him will benefit from a halo kind of effect for all the other buyers that specific buyer is in touch with. So you're actually going to be seeing more and more of this technology. And I think CLI is really one of the pioneers in that. They have, I don't know, it sounds like a cliche, but they have pivoted quite quickly into these kind of technologies.
Great. And with that, my dear panelists, Markus, Roy, and Jess, really good conversation today. Thank you so much for sharing your expert insights with us. We've learned so much about the property industry and how to make smart real estate investment decisions in preparation for the next normal. That concludes our panel discussion, Building Green Homes, Sustainability, Technology, and Real Estate. The Lamudi Online Roundtable series will be back again with a new set of panelists to tackle the latest in the industry and to guide stakeholders through what happens next in the sector post-pandemic. Watch out for more information on Lamudi's next roundtable discussion through our Facebook page. This has been Michelle from the Lamudi Academy. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, awesome, everybody.